thought it was basically our standard that we've used in the past.
I looked at it. It's the exact same one that you used on it.
Sometimes
You just get so much stuff coming back.
well, and you know, we've got some institutional knowledge. If they were in the background on something specific to Brentwood, you could say, "Hey, we've run into this issue before."
I mean, I still look through them now and make sure.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's no big deal.
I'd like to gavel in our regular scheduled meeting for July 21st, 2014. If you'd all please stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Alderman Harper.
Here.
Alderman Nguyen.
Here.
Alderman Kramer.
Present.
Alderman Tui.
Here.
Alderman Leahy.
Here.
Alderman Manister.
Here.
Alderwoman Saunders.
Here.
Thank you. Next item, approval of the agenda for the regular Board of Aldermen meeting, July 21st, 2014. Alderman Leahy.
Thank you, Your Honor. In the packets that we received, we actually received two different notices of the open meeting. One dated July 17th, one dated July 18th, one with the term revised on it. The difference between these two is bill number 5896, which I had specifically discussed with the city administrator and the city attorney to have available for the July meeting. I would like to, at this time, move that bill 5896 be added to the agenda.
Well, two things. One, I believe I talked to the city administrator about having that ordinance put on the agenda. The mayor sets the agenda. I removed it from the agenda when I found out we weren't going to have a full board because I think it's an issue that I want the full board to vote on. When I found out that Alderman Robertson would be absent, we posted a new agenda. You cannot add a bill to an agenda. It was removed, a new agenda was posted, and that's the agenda that we need to go by. You can't add a bill at this point.
I would be very curious as to why it was posted for the 17th and you pull it off and not speak to me about it. You know that I've been shepherding this issue all along. And
Actually, I had no idea that you had that you knew about the bill and that you had any interest in it at this point.
Pat, you and I have had a number of conversations on this bill.
But not on the bill specifically to be on the agenda for this meeting.
No, that was the agreement that I had with the city attorney and the city administrator about getting it ready for the July
I'm in
meeting.
favor of the passage of it. I asked for it to be drawn up, and but I still think it's an issue that I want the full board here for when it's voted on. So when I found out that Alderman Robertson was going to be here, I verified that, and that's when I had a new agenda posted. So if I get a motion to
I'll
approve,
still make the motion to have it added to the agenda, please.
it would be illegal to vote on that ordinance tonight.
It's in our packets.
It wasn't posted on the agenda to the public. The public was not given notice. It's pretty simple.
Alderman Saunders has a question.
Alderman Sanders.
I just, it's unfortunate that it happened, but I agree with the mayor, and the same thing happened to us, unfortunately, with the Ways and Means meeting. The packet was correct, but we had to change the time so many times. It's a mistake anyone can make, but the wrong time got posted for the meeting, and so we had to cancel the meeting. I mean, I think we have to follow the legalities. Do you remember that? The Ways and Means meeting, the wrong agenda got posted, and even though we had everything right, if the public look at that agenda and they intend on being here for that particular issue, they may have skipped the meeting if they're aware of the issue, and it wasn't posted, so I'm in agreement.
It was posted. I have a copy of it.
Not in the revised agenda that was posted the day after that.
Send out.
Your Honor.
Sorry, no comments, please. Yes.
If I could we, just for the record, can we get an opinion or stated from Frank there?
I don't believe if this was not posted on the agenda that was to be presented tonight, that the bill can be on there. I think if you pass that bill, it would be invalid.
Can you
And I
strike
think
the,
prudence would be better to have it posted properly.
can you strike the difference between admitting a bill that's not been posted versus an elected official, if they want, can bring any motion forward at the meeting, and if they get a second, they can vote on that. Is that correct?
That is incorrect.
I don't know about that.
Not on a bill, not on an ordinance.
No, motion. My question was, I'm asking him to describe the difference between these two.
Well, an ordinance becomes a law, and it has to be, you have to give at least notice to the public for them to have time to review it and come up and comment on it. Once you take it off the agenda, as Alderwoman Saunders said, somebody may have seen it on the first agenda, was going to come to the meeting, saw it was taken off on the second agenda, and isn't here this evening.
Well, just to be clear, if we could, Your Honor, if I could beg your pardon here for a second. Frank, just to draw the line more starkly, if an alderman wants to make a motion on an issue and gets a second on an issue, if that gets voted on at the meeting, then that can become passed. Or is that only with the exception of an ordinance or a bill?
I believe you could make a motion, you could have a second, but the ordinance would be invalid if it was presented and passed. So,
Once again, if it's a motion for, I don't know, tomorrow we're going to close City Hall for business, there's a difference between making a motion for an action by the full board, if we all vote on it, and a bill that we present. Is that correct?
I
I
think
think Alderman Kramer's trying to educate the public.
I think you're kind of splitting hairs, but no, I don't think you can put a bill on by motion at the last minute.
I hear you saying bill. I'm not saying bill. I'm saying an action. But it's okay. I understand.
Well, it depend. I guess it would depend upon the action.
Okay.
It's very hard to answer questions that are, if you don't know what the specifics
For
are.
example, we change all the time. Maybe we cancel a meeting, or we change something about an event coming up, or something that happens on the fly. Somebody makes the motion, it gets second, we all vote on it, it passes. So to that extent, it's possible, but to the extent that it is a bill or an ordinance, that's not possible. Is that correct? Would
I
you say?
agree.
Okay. Thank you, Ron.
Thank you. Okay. Do I have a motion to pass the agenda, amended agenda?
So moved.
And second?
Second.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Alderman Harper?
Yes.
Alderman Nguyen?
Yes.
Alderman Kramer?
Yes.
Alderman Tui?
Yes.
Alderman Leahy?
No.
Alderwoman Manister?
Yes.
Alderwoman Saunders?
Yes.
Thank you. Consideration and approval of the regular Board of Aldermen minutes from June 16, 2014. Any changes?
I wasn't here. Well, I left early, so.
Motion to approve the minutes?
Motion to approve as submitted, Your Honor.
And second?
Second.
We had a first and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Next item.
Mine's an abstain. I'm
Right.
sorry.
Thank you.
Abstain. Thank you.
We have two presentations this evening. First, we have a presentation from Backstoppers. Dan? And I believe,
Thank you.
do you want to introduce everybody else too, please?
I will. On Saturday, June 7th, we held our Backstoppers barbecue. Officer Craig Eisenbeis of the police department and Captain Rick Carr of the fire department were the two that organized the entire event. We've done this in the past. We hadn't done it for a few years, and we were kind of excited about bringing it back. All of the proceeds from that day are going to go to Backstoppers. Unfortunately, the weather did not cooperate. We had an awful day. We had 2 storms and a tornado siren. But despite that, I think the Brentwood community really stepped forward. And I'd like to have Craig and Rick present an envelope with with our donation to Chief Ron Battelle, who's here from the Backstoppers. And the total donation was $3,264.89.
Good to see everybody again. Happy to be here, Mayor and members of the council. Thank you for the city's participation in this fundraiser, and to Craig and Rick and the city employees that all helped put this on. We appreciate very much the donation. We do not consider it a small donation. Believe me, it's money well spent. And thank you to everyone for all they've done. And we're taking care of 66 families now and 59 kids. So, we'll put it to good use. And thank you very much.
Very nice.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, next item, we actually have a proclamation this evening for Sophie Rivera. And Alderman Harper contacted me 6 weeks ago or so and asked me to, we could do a proclamation, put one together for Sophie. And I asked if they could send me some information. I almost needed 2 plaques in order to write all this out. I'm going to have Alderman Harper take the honors because I think his eyesight's better than mine. He can read the proclamation.
I got these.
Sophie, if you want to come up front, bring your family and you can introduce them as well.
If you would like to introduce your family first before we get started. Everyone, this is Sophia Rivera first.
Thank you. This is my brother David and my father Edwin Rivera.
And I knew Sophia back when she was a little bit shorter than me, so as you can tell, times have changed. And I've known the family since then, and it's one of the true gems in Brentwood. And as you'll soon find out, Sophia is a great ambassador, not only for the school district, but for the city of Brentwood as well. She's done some outstanding things. As a freshman, in her first meet, she broke the school record in the shot put and discus in her first meet. This year, she is the back-to-back state champion in both the shot put and the discus. And I believe she out-threw every girl in class 1, 3, and 5? All classes. All classes, well, well, I should have known that. So as you can tell, she is quite an athlete, and she's also involved in student council, Fellowship of Christian Athletes, and I think from here you're going to a debate. So very active and a lot of positive things, and a true gem for Brentwood. So without further ado, I will try to read all of this. This may take like 30 minutes with all this stuff. In recognition of Sophia Rivera, whereas the city of Brentwood is proudly known as the city of warmth, and whereas the city of warmth, it is important to recognize the achievements of our outstanding young Brentwood residents and future leaders of our community. True. And whereas Sophia Rivera will be a junior at Brentwood High School, and for the past 2 years has excelled in both the classroom and as a student athlete. And whereas, as a freshman, Sophia broke both the shot put and discus at Brentwood High School records during the 2013-2014 track and field season. Not only did Sophia go undefeated in the shot put, but she set new Brentwood High School records again for the shot put at 45 foot 8 inches and the discus at 136 foot 6 inches. So if you live anywhere near the high school, put a fence up. Whereas at the Kansas Relay Track and Field Tournament, Sophia was honored as the shot put champion and second place in the javelin. In June of 2014, at the Albuquerque, New Mexico Great Southwest Track and Field Classic, Sophia has represented the state of Missouri for 2 years in a row. Sophia won the discus competition with a distance of 142 feet 8 inches. And whereas in December 2013, Sophia was selected to the National Scholastic Athletics Foundation's Javelin Development Program named Project Javelin, one of only 8 students chosen nationally to participate in the program, which will allow Sophia to train with some of the best United States coaches, including trips to the U.S. Olympic Training Center in Chula Vista, California? Chula, thank you. And to Finland this summer. And whereas if track and field was not enough, Sophia was selected to the first team all-conference this past year for both softball and basketball. I told you. Whereas in the classroom, Sophia has a 3.8 GPA and is active in the Fellowship of Christian Athletes Student Council and is a member of the BHS chapter of the National Honor Society. And whereas the mayor of the city of Brentwood, that's not there, I believe it is important to recognize, encourage, and support our young, outstanding residents who set a positive role model for all students and athletes at all levels. Now, therefore, I, Mayor Pat Kelly, by the authority vested in me as mayor of the city of Brentwood, do hereby recognize Sophia Rivera as an outstanding young Brentwood resident and urge all Brentwood residents to continue to support, encourage, and reinforce all young future leaders. Congratulations. Now go win that debate.
You thought I was kidding about the print, didn't you? Okay, thank you very much. That was great. Next item, we have 2 public hearings this evening. It is now 7:15. I'd like to open up a first public hearing for a conditional use permit for 2928 South Brentwood. There we go.
Yes. While this is starting, I'll go ahead and, okay. There. The first public hearing this evening is a request for a conditional use permit located at 2928 South Brentwood Boulevard. The requested use is a use that would allow a professional service establishment. Essentially, as they presented to the city's Planning and Zoning Commission, they would have hair, nail, beauty type of uses located at the site. This is very similar to a conditional use permit that the city approves back, I believe, in January or February, just north of this site. The subject site itself is located on Brentwood Boulevard. It's located on the east side of Brentwood Boulevard. It's right above my pen here. It's very difficult to see. Again, it's zoned GC, General Commercial District. The parcel size is 0.16 acres. As the tract is under half an acre in size, it does require the city to review and issue a conditional use permit for it. The city's Planning and Zoning Commission reviewed the request, and they did not have any recommendations. They made a recommendation to recommend approval to the Board of Aldermen by a vote of 6-0. And that was for the conditional use permit and the site plan approval.
Okay. If anybody in the public would like to comment with respect to this conditional use permit, please come forward and give us your name and address. Hearing none, we will close the public hearing. And it is now 6:18. We will open the second public hearing for conditional use permit for a drive-through fast food restaurant operation at 8106 Manchester.
The second conditional use permit, again, is located at 8106 Manchester. This is on the south side of Manchester. This is the site of the former Rally's restaurant. It has been vacant for quite some time. The former Rally's did operate under a conditional use permit, which permitted the fast food and the drive-through use at the site. However, as that use has been vacant for over a year under the city's code, the conditional use permit terminates, and therefore they've come back before the city to renew that permit. The request is, again, it's to establish or reestablish, I guess, a fast food drive-through use on the site. Will operate very similar to the previous uses on the site. In reviewing the request, the Planning and Zoning Commission, they did ask, there is an existing walk-up window on the site that presumably someone could walk to the front of the site and have access to that. It was questioned on essentially when we've got 2 drive-through lanes converging into one right on Manchester Road, how all of those would operate. They said that they were not going to use that window, and in fact, they agreed, and the Planning and Zoning Commission recommended that a condition be added to pull out the slidable window that could service people on the north side of that building and just have a standard window that could not service people walking up to the site to ensure that that doesn't happen. Along with this, the applicant, they have submitted a site plan. They've submitted the site plan that was done for the original approval of the Raleigh site. And it was noted during the Planning and Zoning Commission review that in order to bring the site up into compliance, there's going to be some additional plantings that are going to be required. The applicant has already started working on kind of cleaning up some of the overgrown vegetation that is out there, and they'll continue to bring the site into full compliance with the plan that is included. Again, with the recommendation to remove the window, the Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval of the request by a vote of 6-0.
Thank you. If anybody would like to address the board with respect to this conditional use permit for the drive-up window, please come forward and give us your name and address. Hearing none, we will close the public hearing. Both these items will be on bills later in the meeting. Next item, item 7, bids. We have a few of them this evening. See, Mr.
That is correct. The first item is for a fire alarm communicator and a monthly monitoring fee of the police department building. Since we no longer have in-house personnel in the building 24 hours a day, there is need for a third party to be notified in the event of an incident that would happen in the building. The city received 3 quotes from Hackett Security, Inc., Alarm 24 Security, and Philibert Security System. In the quote submitted by Philibert, since they're not licensed to work on a GE system, which is what we have in the building, they indicated that it would cost the city $6,447 for them to install a new panel, a smoke detector, strobe lights, heat sensors in the building. Therefore, the recommendation was made by staff and the Public Safety Committee to enter into an agreement with Hackett Security to provide the installation of the fire system communicator and the monitor system. So they're the low and best bid.
Okay.
The second item is for a panic alarm system in City Hall. East Central Dispatch Center now monitors the meetings in this room, but there is need for added security for City Hall, and that would be the installation of panic alarms in strategic places throughout City Hall. We went out for quotes and received 2, one from Philibert Security at a cost of $1,726, the second by Tech Electronics at a cost of $2,151. This was presented to Public Safety Committee, and the recommendation was made that this be awarded to Philibert at $1,726. This cost is reimbursable through the ECC grant.
Just curiosity, Hackett didn't bid on that?
They did not.
Huh, that's interesting. Okay.
The third item is for cleaning chemicals and paper products. We were looking for greater efficiency and cost savings by going with one vendor to provide this to all of the different city buildings. We looked at the state contract, and there is no vendor listed on the state contract, but we are a member of U.S. Communities Government Purchasing Alliance. There was just one vendor on that list, so we also asked for additional quotes from New Systems and State Chemical, and the low and best bid was submitted by Cintas. So there will be on the agenda tonight a facility solutions agreement for the board's consideration. The fourth item is for the city newsletter. We did not have an existing contract with the current print house, which is Messenger Printing. They were in the process of being taken over by a new print house, so the cost was going up. We brought this to Ways and Means. We issued an RFP and had a total of 8 different print houses that submitted quotes to the city. Also, we recommended that we go from 6 issues to quarterly publication of the newsletter. And the low and best bid was submitted by Formax Printing Solution. With their bid, the city will be able to save approximately $5,000 next year in this line item. So this will also be for your consideration this evening. The next one is Police Department tasers. Chief Fitzgerald brought this up at the Public Safety Committee meeting, in that the department was experiencing communication issues with the radios and the walkie-talkies, the portable walkie-talkies, and the city-issued shoulder microphone. They met with the St. Louis County Emergency Communications Commission and their preferred vendor, which is Wireless USA, and they have come up with the quickest, least expensive, and easiest solution so that our officers will be able to hear dispatchers regardless of where they are, at a cost of $7,254.50. We were unable to present this to Ways and Means because this just came up late last week, but I did have a conversation with the chair of Ways and Means. The code requires that if it is an amount over $10,000, we at least try to get 2 quotes. But since Wireless USA is the preferred vendor for St. Louis County ECC, we would like to just piggyback on their contract and have them do it. This is also eligible for reimbursement by ECC, so I have sent a letter to their director asking that the commission give consideration to this, and I'm waiting to hear back from them.
Okay.
The last item is
The tasers.
Tasers.
You started that
I
and went
started
to the
that.
community.
Sorry, I think I may have combined both. Okay, I started that. The tasers, the department is in need of new tasers, 10 total, to equip all the officers at different events. This meeting, for instance, Madden Fest, different events that we have throughout the city. There has been savings from the reimbursement that we received through the ECC grant to cover the cost of this expense. So this vendor is not on the state contract. They are a sole source. They're the only vendor that provides tasers in the United States. So there's really no competitor out there. So we would also like to make this purchase. There is no agreement necessary. It will just show up on the warrant list for your consideration when we receive the invoice.
Okay, thank you. Next item, hearing of any matters of public interest upon any persons present. If anybody would like to address the board, please come forward and give us your name and address.
My name is Gary Bierman, 9071 West Swan Circle. I'm here to comment on the proposed upcoming construction along Eager Road, which will be Richmond Heights but affect Brentwood. I have quite a few years of experience administering large construction projects in densely populated areas. My concerns are parking, on-site space for staging of trucks, and then access. It's best to have rules and regulations negotiated ahead of time and be part of the construction documents. If you find later you need different rules, there will be grousing, there'll be claims of increased costs, there'll be tradesmen who will be in rebellion. This is a case of a large piece of ground in a dense area, but that has on its own site plenty of room for the on-site full-day parking of all the tradesmen and staff, room for marshaling up and staging of multiple deliveries, concrete trucks, places to clean out on their property, not on streets. If it's left open to see what happens, you'll find undisciplined tradesmen parking in the shade on the Brentwood side of the street, trying to get close to the exits. I think that we should negotiate ahead of time in good faith for reasonable rules and regulations to have multiple exits for cars and pickup trucks, including McCutcheon, because we would know that the only place for entry and exit of big equipment, big trucks, will be on Eager. So we need to let both our own residents and tradesmen get out other ways in and out. So I hope that the board will negotiate with the city of Richmond Heights to have equipment staged, areas for parking, and keep their traffic on site as much as possible. Thank you.
We all agree, there's a whole bunch of us here tonight, and we all agree with what that man just said. The other thing is, I think they can use McCutcheon Road, and I would like to have Eager Road in Brentwood west of the town square thing, you know, okay, I'm getting old.
That's all right.
West of O.B. Clark's, designated as all the other roads in Brentwood are that are residential. Even McKnight Road is designated to have only smaller trucks and only when they're making a delivery. Those are the only two roads that people actually live on that are different. And I think it should be changed so that they are the same, because there is no reason for our constituents to put up with those big trucks coming back and forth, wrecking our road again that cost us $30,000 the last time they did it. When they have a perfectly good road, but they don't want to aggravate their constituents. And they'd rather aggravate ours because we can't vote for them. So I'm asking this body to support us. Thank you.
Hi, Lynn Morgan, 9156 Robin Court in Brentwood Forest. I obviously agree with Pat and Gary. But a thought that never occurred to anyone, now I know it's town and country, but coming down from Magna Bank, if they could just scoot a little construction lane in there, they could do all their traffic on, quote, the green space, which I still haven't figured out how that's TIF, because to me it's beautiful green space, but we won't go into that. But if they could come in and not get onto Eager as much as possible, that's a whole construction. They could just have a lane there and could easily get to the place. And we're not against the apartments, trust me. They were there before we were. We're looking forward to a fantastic development. But the problem is the 18 months it takes to develop that property, what it will do to Brentwood, to Eager, and to the citizens who live there. Thank you, sir.
Lynn, if I may, you're suggesting putting an access from Brentwood Boulevard on the north side of Magna Bank coming up through that green space?
Yeah.
Where are you putting this?
I don't do north-south.
Oh, okay.
I just don't. I don't know that. I do left-right. Okay. Okay.
Between the highway and the Magna Bank building.
Between the highway and the Magna, but it's going to be on Eager. You come just past the Magna Bank. You can still use the highways. You come just past the Magna Banks on the right. You know, our shopping center's there.
Yeah.
Bobbling's on the left. You come up through that town and country where it's beautiful green space. It just needs a traffic lane for the construction traffic. And you get it down to McCutcheon. Then you're not on the road. And then they'll fix it up afterwards. I know I'm not doing left, right, east, west. But, okay, I'm on High School Drive, okay?
I think
where
we
my mom lives.
I think we understand what you mean.
Oh, do you?
right?
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Okay.
We got it.
Cecilia Nangle, 9212 Eager Road. I agree with all these people, and I want to point out that I was at one of the last meetings, and Mr. Leahy pointed out that at the curve where the bank is, we own both sides of Eager Road. Now, if they're going to close off McCutcheon, and they want their trucks on our side of the road, we can stop them completely if we own both sides of Eager Road there at the bank. He's nodding yes. Now, when they closed off McCutcheon to us because it was going to disturb their residents, there can't be more than 60, 70 houses on both sides of McCutcheon, and we have 1,425 units in Brentwood Forest. It will affect us very, very much, and they gave $10,000 to the architects did for the roads in Richmond Heights. They didn't give us a cent. And as we said earlier, they did a lot of the work from Richmond Heights, and they spent $30,000, we spent $30,000. They benefited, we got a better road, but we paid for it, and I think that should be a major consideration. Thank you very much, and thank you, Mr. Leahy, for pointing that out to us.
Hi, Denise Sebbing, 2612 Porter, and I'm coming here today because I've been trying to get a list of the trees that needed to be taken down and everything, and in the course of doing that, I learned that there was a tree audit that was completed that was part of a grant, and I attended the July 9th planning and development meeting, non-meeting, where there weren't enough aldermen present to have the meeting. I know things came up and things happened, but apparently nobody knew that there wasn't going to be a full house, or at least it wasn't canceled. I've yet to see a reschedule of that meeting, so I'm assuming that we just have to wait till the next month before that audit comes true again. But a couple of the things that I learned from that meeting, or non-meeting if you want to call it, is that this audit was actually a grant that provided that, or partial grant. It was not shared with the public until it happened to be on South 40. There are approximately, or estimated, 70% of the trees in Brentwood needed some attention. Mr. Robertson attended and had not even looked at the report before it was presented, but claimed he had no experience or no realization that the tree situation was as bad as it was. Even though I've been coming up here for months saying, we've got problems with our trees, they need to be taken down. I was under the impression, when even Ellen was still here, that there was a running list of trees that when people reported them were going to be addressed. And I found out afterwards that that's not the case, that sometimes it's just slips of paper that people would call in, and that's how trees were addressed. And so today I actually have some show and tell pictures. Share.
Thank you. Thank you.
These were pictures that were taken as I just drove around for about a 20-minute period in Brentwood. You can see the first set of pictures. I've complained about the roads on Manchester. The first picture is a picture of two holes right in front of the bus stop, 2 feet from the bus stop, right in front of a fly fishing store. That grade there is about 1.5 feet down. Somebody gets off a bus and steps in that, they're going to break a leg. The second set of pictures is a picture of the stop signs and the speed limit signs right around the corner of the intersection of White and St. Clair. You can see this was from my car window. I could not even see the speed limit. I couldn't see the stop sign coming from the other direction on White. I couldn't see the speed limit. The trees are hanging over it. The next picture there, the one individual, is a no parking sign by Walgreens. You can't even see it. The following picture there is a picture of a tree that you get coming up from Porter. If you look at that report that was done by the experts, this has at least 2 big cutouts out of it. And this is what you look at every day. I'm not sure if it's on that report. I didn't see it as being listed, but this is something that, a picture similar to this, it's saying that it should be addressed right away. And this has been sitting there for a couple of years now. The last one's actually a picture of one of my neighbor's trees. You can see it has 3 cutouts. It happens to be one of the individuals who works for our city. And Frank, I don't mean to pick on you. You just happen to be across the street from me. But I wanted to bring this to your attention because this is what I found in 20 minutes driving around. And I understood from that meeting that audit, or that tree audit, wasn't even brought to the Planning and Development's attention until July meeting, and that it was done in either February or May. And there are 23 trees that are critical that need to be taken down right away. We were told that it wasn't brought up because there wasn't money in the budget. We have money for all these other things. I think it's ridiculous that we're not spending money for our infrastructure. For some of these individuals, they're trying to be proactive on Eager Road, and I applaud them for that because we're trying to dig out of a hole right now, and I think it's terrible that these things have been allowed to get this bad over the years and that money hasn't been set aside. And I think it needs to be addressed right away. And to wait a whole nother month before anybody addresses the tree audit so that it can be in the budget, in another couple of months, there aren't going to be leaves on the trees. And so then it'll just be pushed to next year being an issue. So I would please ask that be accelerated and brought to the board more quickly than the next month or the following month, because we've been waiting too long for some of these things. Some of the infrastructure needs to be addressed, some of the tree issues, enforcement of ordinances. Frank isn't the only individual who lives and works in this community. Pat, you yourself, we've had conversations about the house. I had no idea it was your mother a year ago, her home, where branches 10 and 12 feet were fallen and laying in the street. And we didn't know whose house it was. We picked them up.
I'm sure you didn't.
I did not. I had no idea, Pat.
Yeah.
Why would I have known that?
Because you're so sweet
anyway,
and nice. Yeah, that you wouldn't do that to anybody, put them on the spot.
No, I wouldn't. But anyway, and also Mike Shelton had trees. So these are people, you guys live in our community. We're asking you to enforce and take care of this tree audit. And I mean, how can we expect everybody else to do it if you guys aren't doing it yourself and self-policing? So I'd ask that people start addressing the infrastructure in Brentwood. It's high time we start taking care of our city and not let it keep going to pot. Thank you.
Joe Harding, 8881 Flamingo Court. I read some proposed bills that will address the Eager development. And while I was out in the hallway here, I looked at the finding mechanism for vehicles over 18,000 pounds, and it's listed at $100.50 plus $22.50 cost for a total of $123. I don't think $123 is much of a deterrent to violate an 18,000 pound limit for trucks. And the reason I'm bringing it up before the proposed bills are voted on is there's a sign on the intersection of High School and Eager with a crossed out heavy-duty truck on it, and which I presume that the city of Brentwood put up years ago because it's weathered. And hardly noticeable, but I walked the dog up there and I checked it before I came to this meeting, and it is still standing there. And regardless of whether these bills are approved or not, that sign is already on High School. And I'm concerned not with what may go on up and down Eager, which is almost unavoidable, but what overflow may happen on High School, which isn't part of their normal entrance and exit, but is a shortcut. And the reason I can say that is I've watched trucks shortcut through High School when they were destroying the property over there to take shortcuts. So my question would be, who is enforcing the sign and the limit when people violated it when they were tearing down the property that they're now going to build on? And second of all, I would urge, if any of this is passed, to increase the fine, to make it substantial so it would deter people from doing it. Thank you.
Karen Smith on Harrison. I'm back on the agenda thing again. So on the website, the original agenda is still what is posted. So just FYI, as far as what a public notice, that I think it's the Bill 5896 that we're looking at is still posted on your public website. Thanks.
Okay, we'll close public comment.
Almost.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I wish that I had been at Susan Ryan, Pine Avenue. I'm very much a tree person. I had 2 trees on the side of my house where I was very concerned as mothers walked by that some big branches fell. And I was very concerned about it, called the city and had them taken down. I thought they did a great job. I'm glad that we have taken the time and effort to come up with an inventory so that we can make a plan, because there are a lot of places that do need attention. But I'm very thankful that they came out and addressed this right away. So thank you.
Okay, we'll close public comment, move on to introduction, reading, and passage of bills. If I could have Alderman Kramer.
If I could beg your pardon for just one moment, could I respond to one of the comments that was made during the public comment?
Sure.
The perhaps necessary explanation for the signage that one of the Brentwood Forest board members brought up regarding High School Drive. The signage that's currently there, and I don't know how long it's been there, but it is definitely weathered, and some may have difficulty deciphering exactly what the image is that's on that sign. But there are 2 different types of truck, I guess, violation or ordinance signage types that we will see, and that particular one on High School Drive, as you travel southbound from Eager Road, is for commercial vehicles only. It does not prohibit trucks over 18,000 pounds, just commercial vehicles that are not making deliveries within that particular area. So, for example, your FedExes or your various delivery trucks or some regular types of commercial vehicles, that particular Schedule G sign is just for those. And we'll be talking about this a little bit later on when the bills come up, but the signage that's on High School Drive is just for commercial vehicles and not for trucks over 18,000 pounds, which is proposed as one of the bills that you referenced coming up. Thank you.
Okay.
Mayor.
Alderwoman Saunders.
I wanted to comment more as a resident, really, than an alderwoman, because I guess there's never really a chance for just our comments. But I had requested that tree inventory report and wanted to discuss it at that Public Works meeting, although Alderman Robertson didn't like the way I was discussing it, and so he decided to leave the meeting. And I'm very concerned because there are dead trees that are listed in that in that inventory, and they need to be removed right away. I mean, they're a liability for the city, and I realize that it's not in the budget to do those items, but we need to start addressing these items. And it concerns me because there are a lot of trees. It's the same. When I drive around and I look at the streets really need a lot of work. There's curbs that are completely crumbling, and I'm worried because we're applauded ourselves just to get at 17% reserves, but that's not much money, and I don't understand why we think that we have the staff that can take on these huge projects. I know years ago we bought a 65-foot bucket truck to trim trees. To think that we have the experience, the safety standards, the OSHA to remove and cut down these trees is scary to me. Look at what just happened when we did the sewer, when we weren't following the standards, and it could have turned into be disastrous when that one gentleman, one of our employees, was stuck down in the sewer. We need to be keeping up with this maintenance regularly, and by that report, I find that we haven't been doing so. And here we are, we don't have a lot of reserves, and I'm wondering, how are we going to get there? I mean, you know, I know we had the bond obligation for the streets, and the city paid that off early. They used general revenues, the mayor has said in the past, to pay that bond obligation off sooner. But it worries me because that money is kind of should have rolled over again so that we have money to continue updating our infrastructure, the streets. I mean, we've asphalted some streets that there's visibly no curb. There's been so many layers put on. And when you drive around, it's starting to look, in my opinion, a little seedy. And I'm worried because there's a lot of things that are aging. The streets, the trees, and I guess sidewalks. And then Alderman Leahy brought forward that the sidewalks are the responsibility of the residents. And that to me is concerning because now each resident is going to have to go so we can have a mishmash of sidewalks in front of us. And unless the tree uproots it, Alderman Leahy said that the residents own the sidewalk. And at that meeting, it was said that we're going to try to enforce our code now so that we only replace sidewalks when it's the result of the trees. And that's very concerning to me. And I'm wondering, there's talk too that maybe, taxes are going to be coming up in August, September. We're going to have to approve the tax rate. And there's talk about, the library got their nickel, whether they'll go up 10%. Well, I don't think we should be spending more money on the library. We need to spend money on our streets and on our infrastructure and on our trees. And I like to have low taxes, but again, where are we going to get the money? Some of these things really need to be addressed. And I think residents would like to see the city start looking better. And so I don't know if it's another bond obligation to start redoing the streets again so that we have, more concrete streets, a little less asphalt. But I think there's some big issues that we have coming before us that we need to address. And also, too, I do applaud you for getting this in writing up ahead of time. Because I think we should have gotten a contract with the county for Brentwood Boulevard, and we don't want that to happen, so I applaud you for coming forward for that.
Okay. Motion for the first and second readings of Bill number 5891, 5892, 5893, 94, 95, 97, 98. First and second readings only. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Motion carries. First reading of Bill number 5891.
First reading Bill number 5891 by title only, an ordinance granting approval of a conditional use permit and site development plan of property number 2928 South Brentwood Boulevard, which permits under the provisions of Chapter 25 of the Brentwood City Code the modification of that site, providing the conditions of such development, providing for the enforcement of this ordinance, and establishing the effective date of this ordinance.
Okay. Synopsis, please.
Yes, Your Honor. Bill 5891 is a petition for a conditional use permit and site plan review for the Health and Beauty Service establishment located to be at 2928 South Brentwood Boulevard, is south of Manchester Road. This bill covers an ordinance granting approval for conditional use permit and the site plan to operate a business service establishment providing for health and beauty services within an existing building located at 2928 South Brentwood Boulevard. Our Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval after reviewing the site plan and conditional use permit by a vote of 6-0 for Bill number 5891.
Thank you.
Your Honor.
Alderman Leahy.
Question, if I may, to you, sir. The Planning and Zoning Review, why was it only a 6-0 vote if there are 13 members on Planning and Zoning?
Attendance.
It was attendance at that meeting, or was that a special meeting?
There are
No,
12.
because if you've got 13
There are
and you
12
only have
members.
6.
There's 12 members on P&Z.
So don't I have to have more than a simple majority of the members present to have a quorum?
Well,
So that would be 7.
And we did have 7.
I got a 6-0 vote.
The chairman of P&Z does not vote unless there's a tie.
Okay. And the rest of the members were just absent?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Second reading, please.
Second reading, Bill number 5891 by title only, an ordinance granting approval of a conditional use permit and site development plan of property number 2928 South Brentwood Boulevard, which permits under the provisions of Chapter 25 of the Brentwood City Code the modification of that site, providing the conditions of such development, providing for the enforcement of this ordinance, and establishing the effective date of this ordinance.
Okay. Alderman Saunders.
Justin, I just have one question. Why is the size of the lot requirement in there? And then,
That's the code.
I've been looking for I assume you're talking about the
the
distinction
condition is
between a
because-
half an acre and under.
right.
I'm not sure. I've been looking into this since I started. I haven't found the clear answer. But the way the code is broken up, and it's been that way since the code that we have right now, which comes from, I believe, 85 era, it's been in the framework since that time.
And a half an acre is required for what type of site, or?
It doesn't, it breaks down uses. So essentially, the large, if you're over half an acre, a lot of the conditional uses become permitted uses, and if you're under a half an acre, a lot of those uses are conditional uses as opposed to permitted uses. It's kind of the breakdown of it.
Okay, and there's no precedence or anything as far as like this conditional use sets, and, I mean, it's just a case by case. If we grant it in one, do we always have to grant under?
No, it's a case-by-case review. The zoning ordinance lays out 11 or 12 specific criteria that the city reviews the request based off of that, and those all get reviewed by a P&Z, and then in the rationale that gets forwarded to you, it'll have those in there as well.
Okay, but I mean, if you approve one business for under a half acre, but then maybe another one's not suitable for less than half, it's still okay to, I guess, Frank, to disapprove that one? It's a case by case.
That's why you vote on each one, yeah.
Right.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure, though, you're not setting a precedent, so you set yourself up for a legal issue.
Yep.
I think if the board makes the appropriate findings, that there's reason to believe that, that the proposal doesn't meet the criteria laid out in code on a case-by-case basis. It's at the board's review on, if they don't meet the criteria, they don't meet it on a case-by-case basis.
And do you agree with that, Frank? I mean, I just want to make sure
I do
that
agree,
if
as long as the decision.
If we disapprove another one that's under that for other reasons, but yet they use that.
As long as that disapproval isn't for some improper reason like discriminatory or something on that line.
Okay. And I take it we're looking at those as we're reviewing, since the new code, those distinctions, will that be looked at?
We're always kind of looking at them. I know that a couple of months ago we brought forward a proposal for the light industrial district for those uses. Right. So it's kind of an evolving, continuous process that we go through with those. So yes.
Okay, thank you.
Do you have a motion on bill number 5891?
Motion to approve as submitted, Your Honor.
We had a first and a second. Roll call, please.
Alderman Harper?
Yes.
Alderman Nguyen?
Yes.
Alderman Kramer?
Yes.
Alderman Tui?
Yes.
Alderman Leahy?
Yes.
Alderman Manister?
Yes.
Alderwoman Saunders?
Yes.
Bill number 5891 is now ordinance number 4555.
Thank you. First reading bill number 5892, please.
First reading bill number 5892 by title only, an ordinance granting approval of a conditional use permit and site development plan for exterior renovation of an existing building and related site improvements at property numbered 8106 Manchester Road, which permits under the provisions of Chapter 25 of the Brentwood City Code modification of that site, providing the conditions of such development, providing for the enforcement of this ordinance, and establishing the effective date of this ordinance.
Okay, synopsis, please.
Yes, Your Honor. Bill 5892, the petition for conditional use permit and site plan review for a drive-through fast food restaurant located at 8106 Manchester Road. Bill for an ordinance granting approval for the conditional use permit and the site plan at that drive-through fast food restaurant location within an existing building located at 8106 Manchester, the former Rally's location. Our Planning and Zoning Commission has recommended approval of the site development plan and the conditional use permit by a vote of 6-0, with the condition that the dumpster enclosure be repaired and that the existing sliding window on the front of the building be replaced. It was also noted that additional landscaping will need to be installed on the site to comply with the plan submitted by the applicant. Recommendation for Bill 5892.
Thank you. Alderman Saunders.
Can I just ask when the signage, that will be under separate, when will the signage be approved?
So under the current code in the general commercial district, Chapter 19 of the city code governs signage for this district. So it comes in, it's a separate review. So this will fall under the, just the basic standard sign procedures, and it goes through an administrative process.
Okay, and related to that, how are we on looking at the new signage code? I know we were revising that.
We're making very good progress.
Okay.
We intend next week, we will present a first draft of all of the review comments in one comprehensive document to kind of make sure that everything has been included into it, with the hopes that we would be presenting it to the full Planning and Zoning Commission in August for their ultimate consideration of that before forwarding it on to the board.
Great, thank you.
Second reading, please.
Second reading, Bill number 5892 by title only, an ordinance granting approval of a conditional use permit and site development plan for exterior renovation of an existing building and related site improvements at property numbered 8106 Manchester Road, which permits under the provisions of Chapter 25 of the Brentwood City Code the modification of that site, providing the conditions of such development, providing for the enforcement of this ordinance, and establishing the effective date of this ordinance.
Okay. Alderman Kramer.
May we ask if the petitioner is present here this evening? I have a couple questions, if I could. Hello, Mr. Martinez.
How you doing? How you doing, everybody?
The location is going to be called Fort Taco.
Yes, staying with the business.
The timeline proposed for opening and the construction or any build-out?
Well, that all depends on what all my, once we get the permits for electrical, there's probably some issues there. But once we iron out when my contractors can finish up work, I'll have a timeline laid out for marketing and opening. So I'm saying latest 7 weeks.
Okay.
Hopefully.
And there are, by the way, we're excited that you're coming here. I've heard great things about there are other locations, is that correct?
Well, that's our investor's plan. This is our guinea pig. We're originating here in Brentwood. If the model works out, then we're going to dot them around St. Louis.
And there have been some questions for those who enjoy Mexican-type food, and this will be Mexican-type. There will be no margaritas at this location.
No margaritas. It's actually Grandma's recipe. Grandma never served us margaritas or allowed us to have any of that type, but so it's fast food only because it's made quickly, but it's not really fast food.
Thank you for being here tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Martinez.
Okay.
Mr. Martinez, if I may. And I'm going to defer to you, but Justin, if you have some answer. If I'm not mistaken, the rallies closed up after we had the September flood. Is there any type of flood concerns or stuff that have to be changed?
No, they closed way before that.
Yeah.
Okay.
This property is not located in the regulatory floodplain.
Thank you. That's what I wanted to make sure. Thank you.
They probably closed 7 years ago.
It's been a while.
That was 09 that we did?
Yeah.
So that's 5 years ago.
No, the flood was in 2011. I think.
Was it?
Yeah.
Okay.
But they were closed way before that.
Okay.
That was fine. Okay.
Thank you.
We had
Motion
first.
to approve.
Yeah, we have motion.
Motion to approve, Your Honor,
And
Bill
second.
5892.
Second, Your Honor. Go ahead, sir.
Motion was made by Alderman Kramer, second by Alderman Harper. Roll call, please.
Alderman Harper?
Yes.
Alderman Nguyen?
Yes.
Alderman Kramer?
Yes.
Alderman Tui?
Yes.
Alderman Leahy?
Yes.
Alderman Manister?
Yes.
Alderman Saunders?
Yes.
Bill number 5892 is now ordinance number 4556.
Thank you. First reading, bill number 5893.
First reading, Bill number 5893 by title only, an ordinance authorizing the mayor and/or city administrator to enter into and execute a facility solutions agreement with Cintas Corporation and providing for the effective date of this ordinance.
Okay. Synopsis, please.
Yes, Your Honor. One of the rare circumstances where the title of the bill is almost similar to the synopsis for Bill 5893, Facility Services Agreement. This covers an ordinance authorizing our mayor or city administrator for the city of Brentwood to execute a facility service agreement between our city and Cintas Corporation for the cleaning chemicals and paper products to be used citywide.
Okay, thank you. Second reading, please.
Second reading, Bill number 5893 by title only, an ordinance authorizing the mayor and/or city administrator to enter into and execute a facility solutions agreement with Cintas Corporation and providing for the effective date of this ordinance.
Okay. Motion?
So moved.
And second?
Second.
Motion was made by Alderman Nguyen, second by Alderman Harper. Roll call, please.
Alderman Harper?
Yes.
Alderman Nguyen?
Yes.
Alderman Kramer?
Yes.
Alderman Tui?
Yes.
Alderman Leahy?
Yes.
Alderman Manister?
Yes.
Alderman Saunders?
Yes.
Bill number 5893 is now ordinance number 4557.
Thank you. First reading, bill number 5894.
First reading, Bill number 5894 by title only, an ordinance authorizing the mayor and/or city administrator to execute a professional services agreement on behalf of the city of Brentwood, Missouri with Higbee Associates for comprehensive compensation consulting and providing for the effective date of this ordinance.
Synopsis, please.
Yes, Your Honor. Bill 5894, the funding authorization for the compensation study for the city of Brentwood, covers an ordinance authorizing the mayor and/or city administrator to execute that professional services agreement with the company known as Higbee Associates for comprehensive compensation consulting at a cost of $29,650. Funding is in the full year and fiscal year 2014 budget for the city. The study can be completed in 3 months as provided the city is able to have all the necessary authorization and approval in place for them to begin working with staff no later than July 21st. That would be today. It is anticipated a report would be provided to the city the first week or second week of September. This has been reviewed by the Ways and Means Committee and recommended for approval.
Thank you. Alderman Saunders.
Thank you, Mayor. I have been requesting this compensation study prior to being on the board, and I've put it in my request for both budgets since I've been on the board. Unfortunately, we've not been able to get it passed. I just think it's very important that we make sure that we are comparing, I know there's been other studies or there's things that you can pull off. I had suggested Better Together, but BOLA didn't feel like maybe that information was accurate enough because maybe the job responsibilities weren't lined up.
Better Together does not have a compensation study.
No, not study. I meant compensation information. The cities were asked to put out, and I know like Clayton lists employees' names in their position even, and there's a whole database out there that has compensation. But when I brought that up at Ways and Means, it was pointed out to me that you didn't feel that information was necessarily reliable. Is that correct, Bola?
That was a different report. That's the report that MML, the Missouri Municipal League,
No. But at the recent Ways and Means, I'm not talking about past studies, at the recent Ways and Means meeting, I suggested should we first look at the data that is out. There's a database that Better Together has put together. And
No.
I said, yes.
Excuse me.
I'm sorry, Better Together St. Louis. I've gone out to it, and it lists like the fireman's name and different individuals. We discussed this at Ways and Means. Alderman Kramer, do you remember the discussion? Okay. And at that time, I was indicated that the information was not reliable. I can go back and get the tape. But anyway, it doesn't matter. I'm just saying, though, there is a database. I've been on it. Well, you don't recall this conversation at all. You said that
I'm listening.
Okay, but even from you, they requested compensation information from our employees, and it was put up, given to them, and it's on a database that individuals can access? Okay, well, I will go back and listen to the tape and get the exact wording, because I don't want to misstate something, but I did suggest that we take a look at that information, and I believe I was led to believe that maybe that's not reliable. The thing about a compensation survey is that it does make sure that you're comparing the correct positions and responsibilities, because sometimes job titles can be deceiving. And again, in order to make these pay raises and decisions about our salaries, I think you have to have this information. It's a judgment call whether we pay at the high end, the middle end, if we want to overpay, that's fine, but you need to make educated decisions. And I don't know how through the years that we've approved 5% and 3% raises without having this information. And I've said before, I would hate to cut someone's pay kind of using a report that maybe doesn't have the exact same job responsibilities lining up, or add to someone's pay without accurate information. So I think it's very important that we do a compensation survey. My concern, and Alderman Leahy has echoed this concern, and I think we've shared it, is will we use the information? Because I know recently we had benefit information come before us where we're like one of 2 or 3 cities that pay for short-term disability. And again, it's a decision we have to make if we want to keep doing that for our employees, but we at least have to have the discussion. And my fellow aldermen weren't, or at least on Ways and Means, were not willing to have the discussion. And it's just at this time, like I said, I feel like we're going to have some big expenses coming up, and that we need to be responsible with the residents' tax dollars. And but at the same time, we don't want to overpay people because we have other expenses that need to be done.
Well,
I
can we
don't-
wait till we get the report and then go through that kind of stuff? I mean, it seems like this is more like a campaign speech than talking about that.
Okay, I apologize.
Question.
I apologize, Mayor.
Alderman Tui?
Will this capture benefits information as well?
This is primarily just for compensation, salaries.
You're not coming through.
This is just for salaries.
Better.
So how does the pension factor in that? Is that considered a benefit or is that considered salary?
That would be a benefit.
You have to have full compensation in a compensation. You can't just look at salaries. If you don't, compensation isn't just salary, it's salary and benefits. That's why you use the term compensation. And then also, I would be fine too if you put the elected official in the in this compensation study as well, and compare us to the other cities.
Sorry, I got one more question. Could that be added, or is that not something that? Well, is that something that? Sorry,
she was looking.
Could that be added into the study?
I'm looking at the response. It would include benefits as well.
Right.
So I stand to be corrected, yes.
Yes.
It does.
Okay.
Okay.
Your Honor.
Alderman Kramer.
We were the beneficiaries of a wonderful presentation by the representatives from Higbee at the last Ways and Means Committee meeting. This topic has been before us before in various conversations. I was very much impressed by the presentation that was made, the comprehensive portions, the knowledge base of the folks that actually run the company, put the surveys together, deal with the other cities, and the disparity between what this study would provide and what we'd be able to garner from just the municipal league information that's been made available. I think this study would pay for itself and be a very useful benchmark for our city going forward, that we could get updates from this study if we decide to fund those going forward. I am in favor of this bill, and once again, I appreciate the folks from Higbee making themselves available to work on an expedited timeline were we to approve this tonight.
Okay.
Thank you.
I have one other question with regard.
Alderman Saunders.
Can I ask, where are we with the firemen? Are we at the 8%? Because what about if this information... No, it does, because how you're going to use this information. What happens if you find at the high end? How are you going to deal with that? And I'm going to ask the senior alderman because I wasn't here.
Well, again, don't you have to get the report and before you start making that decision?
Well, I mean, it's just a consideration, though, in the past. Like I said, Alderman Leahy didn't support the report because he said he's brought up other things regarding compensation, and that his concern is that we don't make any of the tough decisions at this level. And so I just wanted to put that out there because it will be a consideration.
Okay. Where are we? First reading or second?
Second.
That was
Second reading?
Yeah.
Okay.
Second reading, Bill number 5894 by title only, an ordinance authorizing the mayor and/or city administrator to execute a professional services agreement on behalf of the city of Brentwood with Missouri with Higbee Associates for comprehensive compensation consulting and providing for the effective date of this ordinance.
Thank you. We have a motion.
Motion to approve as submitted, Your Honor, Bill 5894.
I will second that motion.
We had a first and a second. Roll call, please.
Alderman Harper?
Yes.
Alderman Nguyen?
No.
Alderman Kramer?
Yes.
Alderman Tui?
Yes.
Alderman Leahy?
No.
Alderman Manister?
Yes.
Alderman Saunders?
Yes.
Bill number 5894 is now ordinance number 4558.
Okay, thank you. Actually, along those lines, just as a side comment, there was a news item on KMOX this morning about St. Louis Police Department. In their new agreement with the city, the policemen are no longer required to take an annual fitness exam. But if they voluntarily take the exam on a yearly basis, they get a $500 bonus. So I just throwing that out there to say that maybe some of the things aren't as clear cut as people think they are when it comes to compensation and how they're handled. So They actually call it a bonus,
I was
too.
gonna say,
They can do a bonus?
That's what I'm telling you.
They talk to the state auditor?
Okay, next item. First reading of Bill number 5895.
First reading Bill number 5895 by title only, an ordinance authorizing the mayor and/or city administrator to enter into and execute an agreement on behalf of the city of Brentwood, Missouri with Hackett Security, Inc., and providing for the effective date of this ordinance.
Thank you. Synopsis, please.
Yes, Your Honor. Bill 5895, the fire alarm communicator and monitoring system in the police department building for the city of Brentwood. This bill covers an ordinance authorizing our mayor or city administrator to execute a fire alarm communicator and monitoring agreement for the police department of the city of Brentwood building between the city of Brentwood and Hackett Security Incorporated, that for the installation of a fire alarm communicator and monitoring service.
Okay. Any questions? Second reading.
Second reading Bill number 5895 by title only, an ordinance authorizing the mayor and/or city administrator to enter into and execute an agreement on behalf of the city of Brentwood, Missouri with Hackett Security, Inc., and providing for the effective date of this ordinance.
Any questions? Motion? So move. And second?
Second.
And roll call.
Alderman Harper?
Yes.
Alderman Nguyen?
Yes.
Alderman Kramer?
Yes.
Alderman Tui?
Yes.
Alderman Leahy?
yes.
Alderman Bannister? Yes. Alderwoman Saunders?
Yes.
Bill number 5895 is now ordinance number 4559.
Okay. Thank you. First reading of Bill number 5897.
First reading Bill number 5897 by title only, an ordinance amending Chapter 14 of the Revised Code of Ordinances of the City of Brentwood, Missouri by amending Section 14-1007 relating to commercial vehicles and motor buses, providing for the effective date of this ordinance, providing for the repeal of all conflicting ordinances.
Synopsis, please.
Yes, Your Honor. Bill 5897 is a bill for an ordinance that would amend Section 14-1007, Schedule G, as in girl, by prohibiting commercial vehicles and motor buses on Eager Road. That's eastbound from Wrenwood Lane to Bobolink Place, and Wrenwood Lane from South Brentwood Boulevard to Eager Road. The bill's sponsor, myself, and introductory paragraph of the schedule, it states, commercial vehicles and motor buses are prohibited from operating on the following streets, except where necessary for the picking up or delivery of merchandise providing on those streets.
Okay.
I have a comment, Your Honor, unless you wanted to make a comment.
Well, I just have a question. I guess what is the rationale for this? Again, I think the underlying idea is to stop the commercial vehicles from getting to and helping bring supplies to the project for Richmond Heights. But they're still going to be able to use the streets because they're making a local delivery. So I don't know what the goal of this ordinance is.
I have that answer.
Okay.
And by the way, if anybody is opposed to this topic, I certainly have respect for their opinions. That, Your Honor, part of this is a housekeeping measure. Part of it is new information. As throughout your history as a esteemed elected official here, Your Honor, I'm sure you recollect many times where ordinances or restrictions were passed based upon a catalyst. In our case, the catalyst has been almost 10 years in the making. We have a new development that's proposed across the street on Eager Road. Some people know it as the Old Manhasset Village. It could very well be known as the new E4 Living luxury apartment complex. It should be wonderful and nice when it gets built. What's been approved by the City of Richmond Heights is Phase 1 only at this juncture, which is about 280 units. Those who have a history in our area may recall that the original Manhasset Village apartment buildings housed about 340 units back from the late 30s to around 2004. And so the 2003, 4, and 5 timeframe, we had a usage by the owner of that land to tear down the existing buildings. And those buildings over a period of time were removed by various trucks, various commercial and heavy-duty large-scale trucks coming down Eager Road. At that time, that was actually my first year as an alderman. Wasn't quite knowledgeable about what to expect, but one thing I did receive, Your Honor, was quite a bit of grief about the traffic on that street, Eager Road, about the mud, about the debris, about the tearing up of the road, and about the noise, basically the nuisance level. heard about it on a regular basis. Our previous general manager for the Brentwood Forest Condo Association, Larry Reuter, and some of the staff, Judy Conoy, available at that time, received calls regularly when this was taking place. Since that time, the development of proposals that they brought forward have failed. This one seems as though it's going to succeed now 10 years later, and they are mandated by the approval of Richmond Heights to drive all of their construction traffic down Eager Road. As you may know, Eager Road is divided in half, as we found out later on. One half, the westbound lane, is for the ownership of Richmond Heights. The other half, the eastbound lane, is the ownership of the city of Brentwood. So we had a meeting last Sunday at the Brentwood Forest Clubhouse. We invited the developer, Ed Pollock from the Draper and Kramer Corporation, the Lucas and Hunt Associates, owners of the property, came down from Chicago, and along with myself made a presentation to the residents that were recipients of a notice handed out to basically a lot of the residents that were north of Wrenwood Lane, certainly north of North Swan Circle. They heard, they listened, they spoke, they asked questions, and Your Honor, it appears as though some of the proposals that were talked about were asked to be brought forward as a proposal here before our elected body. And one of those is to bring our Eager Road eastbound from Chafford Woods down to roughly Bobolink Place, and our Wrenwood Lane roughly from the entrance, or 8801 Wrenwood Lane, all the way down back to Eager Road, and then High School Drive, that's not already covered by our commercial vehicle restriction, to be brought more into parity with the other streets that are residential in our city. Currently Tillis, Parkside, White, Sonora, Pine, Litzinger, also Rosalie, and Eulalie are some of the residential streets, Your Honor, that are currently protected. To be true and honest, we probably should have had this protection in place when Brentwood Square was approved. We didn't entertain it at that time. Vehicles from Brentwood Square, large vehicles, delivery vehicles, and/or trucks have occasionally found their way into the Brentwood Forest residential area, which are public streets. And I think that all we're asking is for this topic to be entertained and voted on by the officials. That being said, I certainly respect the opinion of the Public Works Committee Chairman, Robertson, who is not here this evening. And that being said, we don't have an emergency on these two bills, Your Honor, 97 and 98. We've been told by the developer at that meeting, who, by the way, was not in opposition to our proposals, and said if that's what that's what he had to work within, he would work within it and work with Richmond Heights to get his development accomplished. But there is no emergency because we've been told he won't start until October. Thus, my proposal is to place these two bills, which the staff was nice enough to put together on short notice, for consideration by our Public Works Committee at their August 13th committee meeting. At that meeting, the committee, one of the members of which, Alderman Leahy, have spoken to this about this topic, agreed that might be not a bad idea. If it successfully makes it through that committee, can be brought back to our voting body here on August 18th for the Board of Aldermen's consideration, and plenty of time for a restriction before the project begins. That being said, Your Honor, I have also heard late word on this past Friday evening that Alderman Toohey from our ward has had contact with the mayor of the city of Richmond Heights, who offered the possibility of working with us on McCutcheon Road. That is the crux of the matter, as some of the board members have brought up here this evening, whether or not the commercial vehicles or the 18-wheelers or 18,000-pound trucks can use their own street, which is McCutcheon Road. And to that end, if that were to be amenable to the Richmond Heights city and government, that would only be about a third of our puzzle. The other puzzle we have is High School Drive and Wrenwood Lane.
Well, that's pretty easy to solve, but I still wanted to know how you think this is going to affect their project, because under most municipal codes, if a business, whether a truck, if it's a moving truck that's coming into Brentwood Forest, a big semi-moving truck, they're still going to be able to do that. even though they're over this weight limit, right?
Yes.
So I don't see how this is your idea that this is going to affect their project because they're making a delivery to that site. They're still going to be able to use the roads. My suggestion, one, I don't think it's appropriate to cut off access with Eagle Road. But it's very simple for the city to put up no construction traffic signs, have penalties for that at High School Drive, at Brentwood, those accesses going into the neighborhood of Brentwood Forest, and encouraging all the traffic then to use Eagle Road, or if Richmond Heights opts to have some of the traffic go down McCutcheon. That's pretty easy to stop that construction traffic and make those restrictions there. But my understanding of the code is, and I don't want to mislead the residents, that if just because these are passed doesn't mean the construction traffic couldn't go that way, because they are making local deliveries, and they should have the ability to do that in those areas. Just as in the future, if Brentwood Forest needed some sidewalks repaired and we had to bring a concrete truck in there, these restrictions wouldn't, even though it's over 18,000 pounds, wouldn't restrict that truck from going up there and delivering the concrete that we needed to do those repairs, or a roofing truck that's delivering shingles, those kinds of things. So getting the commercial truck or the construction traffic away from the residents, that's pretty simple. We could come up with those, signs, and then also ordinances, restrictions on that. Actually, it wouldn't even need to be an ordinance. We just have to pass a time frame on that for that to be enforced, and restrict the construction traffic from entering the neighborhoods.
Your Honor, if I could, just a couple small corrections. As far as our current code is written, a schedule, the Schedule M1, which is the truck, nothing over 18,000 pound gross weight. That is a strict enforcement, and that does not allow anything basically over the 18,000 pounds. We have it on McKnight, we have it on Litzinger, we have it on Parkside, White, Sonora, Pine, the other residential streets. And to my knowledge, if you ask the police department if they want to enforce a restriction that's not in place, they cannot. However, if the restriction is in place, a complaint is made, at that time they have the opportunity to have a discussion or conversation. The other schedule that we have, which is Schedule G, Your Honor, which is also covers the street where you happen to live, allows for commercial vehicles to make deliveries to those locations without worry about restriction. What they can't do is go through those streets making deliveries to some other city or some other area that aren't in that specific street. So what we're not asking for is we're not asking to halt the construction of the development. We understand that Richmond Heights has another location by which to ferry their construction traffic, which is McCutcheon Road. And to be honest and fair, Your Honor, I think we have to admit that because it is their road, construction traffic can currently come up Eager Road westbound and head that street to the northbound McCutcheon entrance, make their delivery, and continue on down McCutcheon Road northbound to Clayton Road. It's an extra 0.9 miles to get to the highway versus the turnaround and come back in front of Eager Road residents. And I think what they're asking for is the relief. If the relief that you're suggesting, which is to post signage and have a new restriction, and it comes out of the Public Works Committee that is the solution, and the residents are happy about it, then I think we've done our job.
Okay. So are you making a motion to put these two bills on hold?
I'd like to place them on hold, Your Honor, and send this matter to the Public Works Committee.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, Alderman Leahy.
Question further, if I may. With these two bills, is it your intent to negotiate with Richmond Heights and the developer to change their redevelopment agreement? Thus, by putting them and passing them, you have at least the leverage to ask Richmond Heights to reconsider their limitation on the redevelopment versus the fact that we are presenting and discussing them provide you that same leverage to get them to at least redefine their development agreement?
I'm glad you asked that question, Your Honor, if I could answer.
Sure.
My understanding is that through all of the meetings, through all of the 10 years that this project has been in the waiting, and all the meetings that I've attended, and we have asked Richmond Heights for their assistance in at least listening to our pleas. We have gotten one great thing and the rest not so great. The one great thing is, once the damage was done and the residents had to live through all the mess on Eager Road, Richmond Heights supplied their labor and their vehicle to help pave Eager Road, and they split the expense. It was $30,000 to us, $30,000 to them. Since that time, Town and Country Apartments has a commercial proposal. This site has a commercial proposal. Our representatives, myself and Brentwood Forest, whoever decided they wanted to come, have asked for help from Richmond Heights, their Planning and Zoning Commission, and their council, including very recently, for assistance. We've been told, no, we're sorry, our development takes precedence. The reason why we want to send traffic down Eager Road is because it's closer to the highway. That's the only reason we want to. If, unless, and until you all have a restriction in place on Eager Road, and we have to discuss other topics, then we will discuss other topics, but not until then.
Okay. Okay. So the motion is to place these two bills on hold. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries.
No, wait a minute.
Alderman.
They're going to go on hold to the Public Works
Well, they'll be
Committee?
referred back to, right.
Okay.
But they're still on hold. They're
To
on the
Public
agenda.
Works.
Alderman Saunders.
And then it comes here, right? I mean, because the McKnight Road, the signs, first our signs about the 18,000, they weren't consistent with the code, and we had to improve those, but we went to public safety for the enforceability of that. Is that, it came before public safety, not public works?
And I don't know, Bola, why those went to public safety, but I don't consider these a public safety item. It's a public
Okay,
works
I think
item.
ours was just that we were trying to enforce what
Well,
was
it's public
there.
safety because it's traffic.
Okay, thank you.
So, okay.
Thank you, Ron.
Resolution 1011. Resolution for the consumption of beer, wine for O.B. Clark's. Is that for Brentwood Days? Okay. All right. Thank you.
Manifest.
Synopsis, please.
Yes, Your Honor, this is the, okay. Would you like just number 1011, or would you like the preamble?
Well, actually, we don't need the synopsis.
Okay.
The next three resolutions are for conditional use permits for beer and wine to be served at Brentwood Days for O.B. Clark's, the American Legion, Golf Mall Post, and the Optimist Club.
This is Friday, September 19th, Your Honor, and
Right.
Saturday, September 20th.
Are they going to be the only ones this year? Didn't a couple other groups?
No, they're the three that will be selling beer, wine, and liquor. Is that correct?
There might be one.
There might
One
be another
more?
one?
Okay.
They're just the only ones who submitted.
So far, okay, all right. Just want to make sure, okay. All right.
Motion to approve. Can we do all three at one time, Your Honor?
I think we can, they're just resolutions.
Motion to approve, for the Board of Aldermen to approve resolution 1011, 1012, 1013 for Madden Fest and beer and wine consumption.
And second, okay. And roll call, please.
Alderman Harper?
Yes.
Alderman Nguyen?
Yes.
Alderman Kramer?
Yes.
Alderman Tui?
Yes.
Alderman Leahy?
Yes.
Alderman Manister? Alderman Saunders?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Next item, resolution, sorry.
1014?
Yeah, 1014, post-disaster response, synopsis, please.
Yes, Your Honor. Resolution number 1014, the Post-Disaster Response Procedure, the State Emergency Department Management Agency, SEMA, following a community assistance visit, the CAV, has required the City of Brentwood to address several action items that must be resolved, or our city would potentially face sanctions from the National Flood Insurance Program, the NFIP. Action item number 4 requires the city to submit an adopted copy of the administrative procedures to conduct post-disaster assessments. The post-disaster response procedure has been drafted to meet the requirements of both FEMA and SEMA, their checklist for items to be included in the procedure.
Okay, any questions? You have a motion, please?
Motion to approve resolution 1014.
Second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Thank you. Next item, counts against the city.
Your Honor, we have a warrant list before us this evening that includes a wonderful amount of pass-throughs in the amount of $43,022.15. The total warrant list is in the amount of $181,294.86. And I'd like to make a motion for approval of the July 21st warrant list.
Second?
Second.
Any questions? All in favor of approving the warrant list as submitted, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next item, reports of committee and department heads. under the mayor's report, one item, the Missouri Municipal League Conference this year will be actually starting Sunday after Brentwood Days, I believe, right?
Yep.
And it will be in St. Charles this year. So Monday and Tuesday, you can register, but there will be different conferences, different meetings. If the board members would like to attend, it'd be a little bit more convenient this year being in St. Charles. So I would recommend that if you have the ability to do that. One other item, we met with Sullivan, our code book company. Actually, it's a new company now, but it's easier to use their old name. They are requesting the ability to update the code book to the last 2 years' changes at the state level. My recommendation is that we go ahead with that, get the mandatory changes done, and this is anything that's been changed at the state that affects our code, get that completed, and have a document that then we can review and try to get passed again. So.
Would there be a charge for that update?
Yeah, that's an ongoing annual, but because they were waiting for us to pass it, they haven't done it in 2 years.
Yep.
So it's a little bit higher than we normally. It's going to be somewhere between $4,000 and $5,000. But in order for us to move forward, I think we need to get that done so that we can review it to adopt the new code book. Okay. So I have a motion to.
Would that be something that we would put on next month's agenda, or you would?
I don't know if they'll finish. They said it's going to take about 6 weeks to complete this.
I believe they said we will have it ready early September.
Yeah,
but
so
we
like
can put it on the next agenda. We just need to formally tell them that they could start the work that the
What do you
Board
mean
of
put on the
Aldermen
agenda?
would
Well, you're
approve
talking, if I may go back to the beginning of this meeting, we're talking about taking an action, and in this case, spending money on a bill or an ordinance that is not in front of us in order to accomplish a task. I think it needs to be done, but for the same argument that we're doing this, I was told that the bill that I wanted couldn't be.
This isn't going to be an ordinance. This is just going to be an allocation of the funds in order to do that. We're not going to have an ordinance. We have Sullivan is our contractor to do that. It's just above the amount that we had in the budget for this year. There's probably, I'm sure by the end of the year, going to be enough in the administrative funds.
I will agree with you that we're not going to break the piggy bank, but
this isn't an ordinance,
it's procedural.
which is a distinction between what you were trying to do earlier. So I will entertain a motion to allocate the funds so that Sullivan can proceed to update the code book.
So moved.
And second.
Second, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Do we need a dollar amount or no?
It's between $4,000 and $5,000.
Okay.
We normally pay about $16,000 to have the entire code book brought up to speed to work with when we go to the recodification.
Right.
I just didn't know if we need to have the dollar in the motion, that's all.
Yeah, well, that amount. Normally, on an ongoing basis, we usually spend $1,000 to $2,000 a year, depending on how much activity happens at the state that affects the code book when they do the update on a regular basis. So we're doing 2 years worth. So we had a first and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. That's all I have under my report. Public
Ryan?
safety. I'm sorry.
If we
Alderman
could, on
Kramer.
the mayor's report.
Yep.
A couple of quick questions, things I think you've brought up in the past, and I'm happy to wait for this business, but it's normally we speak
That's
about
fine.
it here. One item, there are some residents, including myself, that are wagering that the Bonefish Grill will open before Einstein Bagels. Do you have any information on that topic?
Well, depends how much I can get on the number. No. My understanding is, and in talking to staff, we had issued all the permits to Einstein, to that organization, to do their work. It's somewhat speculative, but I think there is an issue with the insurance company is what is delaying them proceeding. So,
Regarding the accident?
yeah, with regards to the accident in the building and probably how much they're getting back in reimbursement for that, given that they were just about ready to start remodeling, I think is probably the issue. So I haven't talked to them directly, but that's what staff has brought back in conversations with them. So to answer your question, I would probably say actually yes.
Okay.
Bonefish is going
All
to
right.
open. I will give you an update. Drury is a couple weeks behind. They are now scheduled. Talked to Larry last week. They hope to open the second week of August. Bonefish is still on schedule, open in October. They're going to have a ribbon cutting, I think it's September 17th. It's a Wednesday.
Okay.
At Drury, yeah.
17?
So when it gets closer, they haven't decided on the time yet, but we'll send out notice to everybody if they'd like to attend that, so.
And Your Honor, the other item was the overhead lines from Drury to the other side.
They talked to Larry about that last week as well. They're starting the construction on that. When they went to St. Louis County to get their permits, St. Louis County added a couple more things on there, pushed the price up to almost $100,000 more than what was budgeted for the project. They're still working to get that number down. One of the items was, as an example, they were going to do a single trench 2 feet wide, the depth that they needed in order to bury the lines, which is what the lines need across the roadway. But what St. Louis County was requiring was not only the 2 feet, but an additional 2 feet on either side of that, so that basically the patch in the roadway is larger. Which makes it more stable, but that alone added about $50,000 to it. They're trying to get that number down, and that is over what they're required to do. When they get a final number, they are going to proceed, but when they get a final number, they're going to see if they can come back and ask to be reimbursed on the assistance for that additional expense.
Okay.
But they want to get a final number first. My understanding is they're starting on that right now. There were trucks down there today.
So, but Bonefish is probably going to beat all of the projects.
They're going to be what?
Bonefish Grill probably open before that is finished.
Oh, no, they're starting today. I think that's, yeah, they were down there with traffic control
And
today.
they don't need
getting
extra
their-
funding from us to,
Well, they're going to pay for it, but they're going to still come back and see if we
Okay.
can, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
thank you.
okay. Alderman Lee?
Staying under the mayor's report?
Sure.
If I may follow Alderman
I'll try.
Kramer? If I can follow Alderman Kramer's line of thinking, somewhat of an unfinished business issue. What are we doing with the rec center bonds and potentially getting that project off center?
Well, we were diligently working on that. We had hoped that we would bring something forward to tonight for the construction management.
Architectural design professional services.
Thank you. Our professional services agreement that is the organization that's going to help us oversee the project. We talked about, I suggested that we just use a GBA, but the board wanted to put that back out to bid. We did that. It is a professional services. It's RFQ. How many responses do we have?
About 8 or 9.
8. We
9.
interviewed. Staff interviewed
4.
4. They actually did select Chiodini, which is actually located here in Brentwood, to perform those services for us. They just weren't able to get the agreement in place. They have an ordinance before us tonight. That really is the next step. We'll have that at our next meeting. And if that is approved, then they'll start working on the bond work in order to, because they need to start laying out their schedule for the work. So.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. So I was able to answer them. Okay. We'll move on. Public safety, no report. Public Works, not here. Planning, do you have any?
Yeah, one quick, we did receive an application for a special use permit
I'm sorry.
at 523 Hanley Industrial Court. Under the city code, generally these fall under my review and approval, of course with other reviewing agencies. However, the applicant, they have included outdoor music in the request, so we wanted to bring it forward to the board, basically present it to the board, make sure that there were no outstanding issues or concerns from the board for this event before.
I'm sorry. Hanley Industrial Court's all the same to me. What building is it?
You know.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah.
Did you get it?
Yeah, I got it. Okay.
Where is that?
What are the
And
hours?
how late will they be playing?
They're
5:30 to 10
Starts at
p.m.
5:30.
Yeah, I mean, 10 o'clock,
Okay.
they might wrap up a little bit earlier than that, but we've had some extensive conversations about the city's noise ordinance and gone through all of that, so they're aware of that. So they've included in their application until 10 p.m.
Okay. All right. Anybody have any questions?
Motion to approve the
Thank
special permit use for the Image Technology Corporation's 20th anniversary event.
Second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Ways and Means, anything further?
Your Honor, we had a meeting scheduled for this month that was canceled. Our next meeting will be for one of two dates in August. Please consult the website for the approved date coming soon.
Okay. City Attorney?
No report, Your Honor.
Thank you. City Clerk Administrator?
Thank you, Mayor. There are 3 items listed. The first one, when we have vacancies in the city, we do an internal evaluation to determine that the position can still meet the services required for that department. In doing that for planning and development, we had a vacancy in the code enforcement officer. And upon review, the recommendation is being made that we reclass the code enforcement officer and the building inspector and call both a multidisciplinary position. They both will be responsible for code enforcement and building inspection, and they will be assigned 2 wards each so that we have redundancy in the positions. When they go around, they can both be looking for code enforcement issues and doing building inspections at the same time. There is no additional increase in the cost of these 2 positions. The reason why we brought it to Ways and Means and now we're bringing it to the board, is that when you adopt the budget, you adopt total number of positions and the job titles. Ways and Means recommends approval.
Okay. We have a motion?
So moved, Your Honor.
And second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Next.
Second one is Richmond Heights Cooperative Agreement. Every year around this time, the city receives an invoice from the city of Richmond Heights that reflects the total number of Brentwood residents who purchase membership at the Heights. In the past, our staff have jointly audited this invoice. This year, however, the City of Richmond Heights computer system crashed, which severely affected their RecTrack software. And to compound that, they also discovered that that system had not been backed up since 2012. So they lost all their data. And they're in the process of restoring all that data, and they hope to be able to create a usage report in order to submit an invoice to the city. So they are making 4 recommendations for our consideration. We were unable to present this to Public Works because we didn't have a quorum. Their first recommendation or suggestion for our consideration is for the city to pay the same amount from 2012, which is $54,280. The second option is an average of the last 4 years, which is when the city switched from a fixed rate, and that is $55,673. The third option is to use an average from the last 3 years, since the payment in 2010 was quite higher, and that would be $54,234. And the last option would be to pay last year's amount. Once they've been able to restore all the data, they would like to present an invoice. If it's higher or lower, then the city, they would either reimburse us or the city would pay the difference.
I would suggest we just go with the same amount that we paid last year.
What was that amount?
$53,000.
I thought you said 54. The first
Pay
one.
last year's amount, $53,044.
Okay.
$44.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Alderman Sanders?
As long as we have a written agreement that, you know what I mean, that it'll be adjusted according to.
We'll ensure that that's in place.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, that happened 4 or 5, I guess 3 or 4 months ago. They had to re-enter all that data manually, so yeah.
It's just shocking that they didn't back up, though, in today's, I mean, that's just.
It happens.
I mean, a couple months, but that far back?
Well, Your Honor, if I may.
Should be automated.
Do they have an anticipation as to when they might be able to recreate the lost data?
They have about a month's or two's data left.
Yeah, the short answer is no. They're working diligently on it, but it's whenever they have time to do it. They have obviously staff dedicated to try and get that data in, but they're going through Word documents trying to put everything back in.
Okay. I'll make the motion that we go ahead and pay the same fee as 2013, subject to a review when the data is provided.
Okay. Second? Was Alderman Nguyen second? Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Okay, last item?
Last item, last year around the same time, Ways and Means and the Board of Aldermen had a budget workshop session on July 30th. We would like to schedule another session this year of the entire board, July 30th at 6:30. This would give the alderman and the mayor an opportunity to share with staff your goals and priorities for the fiscal year 15 budget as we start to prepare it, so that if we haven't included some of your priority projects, we at least give consideration and include that.
Okay. I will be out of town, but I will give you the couple, we've already talked about the couple items I want in there. So
Now, that's a Wednesday night.
Mhm. I'll be on vacation next week.
Good for you.
I
That's
will
it.
not be here. Okay. Let me see. Excise Commissioner, nothing this evening. Library. Municipal League, again, I already did that. Historical Society. We will not have a closed session this evening. Any unfinished business? Alderwoman Saunders?
Can I ask for an update on the internal control audit? I didn't. The results of the internal control audit?
Preliminary plans is that they will be scheduled for that July 30th meeting. We hope that not to stack too many items on there, so that at least we can start to have that conversation with them.
This is the meeting, I mean, we're going to have it at Ways and Means, correct?
Right. It is
okay.
the July 30th is a Ways and Means meeting.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. I thought we had August dates. I missed that. I must have-
August.
There will be
Okay.
meetings in August
You
as
did
well.
decide to reschedule, because we already have one in July, and then you decided to reschedule the one you canceled? I must have missed an email on that. Okay, I'll have to look at that. Yeah, because I thought at the last Board of Aldermen meeting that they said that they were going to be at the past meeting, and we hired them last August 2013, and I pulled their RFQ or RFP, and it said they had 90 days to complete the project, and here we are almost a year later, and we haven't gotten one update, one document from them. So,
I asked that.
that's
Sorry, I asked that it'd be at a meeting I could attend because I was out of town for the last one.
Well, I'm just saying, I mean, still, it's a year, almost a year. And then also, can I ask, and if we both, but next meeting, can we clarify what happened at Ways and Means, that Better Together? Because I feel like it seemed like I was just bringing something up out of the blue, but I know that conversation happened at Ways and Means, so.
I wasn't saying that it happened or didn't happen. I just don't recall at this moment.
Okay, well, if we could
It
just
was
put that on
several
the
meetings
agenda.
ago.
If we could just put it on, oh, it was last, no, it was, oh, anyway. If we could just put that on the Alderman agenda, just so we address that issue, because I appeared tonight like I didn't know what I was talking about, or that I just made that up, so if we could put that. And then also, can I ask you, the boarded site that's down at the corner, northwest corner of Hanley and Manchester, is there a certain point, Justin, is there code violations for that? I mean, how long are you allowed to leave a lot? Like, some of the gaps in there you can see, and it's the asphalt and the weeds are going through. And that's been there for, I think, longer than the rallies, but I'm not certain. Are there code violations for that? I mean, how long can you leave a lot that boarded up and dilapidated?
Well, go ahead.
As far as leaving the boards up, there's no specific time frame on it. I know that we've had code enforcement actions out there routinely, even since I've been here. So we are constantly looking at it.
So has it come before the courts? Because, like, I know, for instance, the Thornton, and I know they did that out of the goodness. They didn't even wait that long. They sodded there a lot. And the development at the end, that Alderman Kramer, the new one that's going to be coming, they nicely sodded that lot. So for the years we're waiting, that's a mess.
Well, there's nothing to require them to do that. They just need to keep the grass cut.
That
But I mean, there's cracked
That was
asphalt.
brought up
But there's-
at
we don't have
a
ordinances for
Public
that either.
Works or Public Safety when a request was made that they be asked to remove the boards up there, and a decision was made
To
that
leave
they continue to leave it up so long as they are meeting
Yeah,
code
the-
enforcement issues
the history
behind
is
that
that-
fence.
Oh,
They-
but there's
they-
nothing with regards to the asphalt, that all cracked up asphalt and weeds growing through?
No. And the
That's
reason
no-
you wouldn't make them do that is because they want to develop the site. The history is that wall was actually put up after Truman Bank was actually going to build a 3-story building there, had been approved. That was going to be a construction site, so that was actually their construction fencing for the project. And before they could Truman got in trouble and decided not to build the building. So they had demolished and taken down the
Memphis Fest and Burger King.
and Burger King, right? The two buildings, and cleared the site. We did have one proposal just this year from CarStar Auto Repair, was willing to purchase a property and move their business there. That did not get a favorable recommendation from P&Z and then from the Board of Aldermen. Other real estate people have come to the city, talked about it, are concerned that they're going to get the same response from P&Z, so a couple of projects have gone away. We are hoping to talk to one within the next few weeks. We missed having a meeting a couple weeks ago, but hopefully at some point the site will be developed and revitalized from that standpoint. So,
What are P&Z's, can I ask, their holdup or their concerns with the potentials? I know there was maybe going to be the Michigan left or Michigan right turn.
Well, I mean, that's a risk that the businesses take. That's why it's one reason it's hard to get businesses interested in the site because of the curb cuts and actually why I thought CarStar was a good use for that, because it was a destination. They still had good visibility and for whatever. But their rationale was, I really think, is that they think that they could get a better proposal for that corner because we had such a good proposal from Truman Bank. It was going to be a 3-story building with a parking garage as an entryway into Brentwood. When they redo the highway, when they redo Hanley Road, they're going to shift. They take about 80 feet of the east side of that property. They're going to actually shift the creek about 40 feet and then take the additional right-of-way. So there's a lot of restraints to the property. And so in order to get people to look at it, a lot of businesses have just turned away because of the access and because of the issues that might be coming down the line. So that's been a hindrance in developing that lot. So. Okay.
And I had one other unfinished business.
Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, go
I just
ahead.
wanted to say, when I talked about the compensation survey, I didn't want to, I was not here when that fireman, the 8% was approved, so I don't want to say that I was in favor. I would have investigated that issue more and found out, what the source of it is. But I do think it might present a problem if we get a compensation study. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Alderman Wind.
Yeah, Dan, could you mention Night Out Against Crime?
Yep. National Night Out.
National Night Out.
National Night Out this year is August 5th, Tuesday night at the Brentwood Swim Club, 5:30 to 8 o'clock. I guarantee a beautiful night.
And all are invited.
So you're not barbecuing then, right?
Yes, we are.
He made the announcement.
Any new business? Alderman Leahy.
Thank you, Your Honor. As the chief did mention, National Night Out is Tuesday night the 5th. Also, August the 5th is the state of Missouri's primary election. There are a number of people up for election and asking for your support in their run for offices. Take the time to get educated. There are a number of ballot issues also on the August primary. The polls open at 6 a.m. Come on out and vote. And if I may, Your Honor?
Sure.
Thank you. The Ward 3 meeting for the month of July will be Tuesday night, the July 29th, 7 p.m., up here in the council chambers. All are welcome. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Alderman Kramer.
Yes, Your Honor. If I could recognize for a moment the esteemed Alderman from Ward 3, Mr. Leahy, once again for a point of clarification. I understand he was the proponent of the Bill 5896, which is now not going to be brought up until the next meeting.
Yep.
Could you educate us or remind us once again, if that goes certain directions, do we have any dates that we have to stay within? Was there?
Yeah, if I may, Your Honor.
Possibly.
Sure.
Thank you. In the request for looking at Bill 5896, the request that I'm making of the board is to evaluate the length of terms of office for all elected officials. State statute is not clear how to do what we're asking to do. We've been working with State Representative Gina Mittens. We've been working with the Attorney General's office. We've been working with St. Louis County Election Board. There are two ways to approach this issue. One is that the board can do it in an ordinance form, or the board could select to put this on the ballot for the voters to decide. If to the ballot side, I think that's where you're headed.
Yes, sir.
There is a limitation by St. Louis County that this board would have to take that action and request to go on the ballot for the November ballot would be the earliest ballot it could go on. We would have to have something passed into the St. Louis County Election Board by August 21st, I believe is the date, to work with. Our meeting in August is August 18th to work with. The intent of the bill is we're coming up on the closure of the first 4-year term. I physically have no data that says it's a good thing, a bad thing, or what. What I'm asking is that the board evaluate whether this is a good thing or not, and how you decide that. Let all the aldermen decide independently, or send it back to the voters and ask them to vote and tell us what to do. The Attorney General discussions that I've had with them, it's kind of a uncharted territory.
Yeah.
They're not sure how to do what we're asking to do. It's up to the board to decide what it wants to do. We could leave it alone if we all wanted to. But that's the intent. Because of the time element, if you went to the voter selection side, that's why I wanted to play with it in July. So in case discussion took us that way, we at least had some time to work that issue through. But I think I'm answering your question. I'm not 100% sure.
If I could, so the short answer was, or is, as long as something is done before August 21st, submitted to the Board of Election Commissioners.
Here in St. Louis.
St. Louis County.
Yes.
Then we would be within the timeline.
If you went the method of wanting to go back to the voters to ask what do you want us to do?
Okay.
We can do it as an ordinance, and that's the way it's roughly drafted right now to work with.
If I could interject this, I've looked at this quite a bit, and I am of the opinion that this cannot go back to the voters. That to do that would be a referendum, which you can't do in a fourth-class city, that any action would have to be taken in effect by the board repealing the prior ordinances.
Right. So, and that's why it was drafted as an ordinance form. So I think to answer your question, Alderman Kramer, we're not as under a time restraint because it doesn't need to go to the voters, or it can't go to the voters.
Okay.
Again, we can do it by ordinance, and that's the direction that that's how the ordinance was written.
Okay.
Alderman Lee.
As you and I have talked, Frank, and following up with the Attorney General's discussion that we've had with them, they are not in 100% agreement with what you're saying. They suggest that it could go that route, though we would be setting up a new method to work with, because the state statute that we're talking with never addressed this issue.
I'll be happy to sit down and go over this with you again, but every time I've looked at it, I come up with the same answer, which is there's no provision.
There is a time element, even if we go ordinance method, and that is that we would like to have this decided prior to anyone filing for elected offices, which would start in the middle of December of this year. So again, we've got some extra time to work with.
I meant for election.
Yeah.
Okay. Alderman Nguyen.
First of all, I was against changing it, but I think one thing to remember is it won by 80-something% of the
76.
voters. 70, well, close to 80%. The only thing I think, whatever we do, I think we have to keep that in mind, that a lot of people wanted it, and after all, we're wanting to do what the people think. But again, I was opposed to going there in the first place.
Right. Okay.
And I'm not running again, so If you guys are going to worry about it.
Alderwoman Sanders?
And the other thing, I don't understand how it can't be put on, an ordinance to put it on the ballot. Within the ballot language would be that you're repealing the prior. If this vote goes through, you're repealing the prior. But it seems to me that the board can put something on the ballot via ordinance
No.
and in the same,
The statute makes provision for going to the voters for authority to increase the term. It makes no provision for authority to go to the voters to decrease the term. The problem then becomes if you put it on the ballot, it's a non-binding referendum, which is not authorized for fourth-class cities.
but if you interpret it that way, I don't see how the board can override the voters' decision. You should have gone for 3-year terms or 4-year, whatever you
There is an
wanted.
Attorney General opinion out there dealing with a different provision of state statute with similar language.
It was a sheriff's election.
It was sheriffs and marshals, and the indication in that AG opinion is that once approved by the voters, the only way to remove it was by repeal of the ordinance.
Okay, I mean, I didn't vote for it because we don't have the power of recall or the initiative process in a Class 4 city. I would still encourage us to encourage the state to give Class 4 cities that power.
Well, that could take
and-
years.
Well, I know, or change our form of government, which is possible too.
That would take years.
Well, anyway, but
Okay.
still, it's always being presented as 2-year terms. And I think that we should have the discussion on the length of the terms 2 versus 3. Because 4, you guys pushed for to save the city all of this money. 2-year terms, I agree, if you get a board in that's going the wrong vision, the residents have a chance to get them out relatively quickly. But being a newer alderman, it takes, a year or so to get your feet wet, and then you're back into an election. And I'm hoping in the future that we're going to have more and more new faces up here on a regular basis, not just this next election, but that we kind of, get residents involved and that we have some turnover. And 3 years, at least you'd have 1 year with a consistent board and wouldn't be turning up. But it's worth the discussion to at least
Well,
talk
we can
about
bring
it.
the ordinance forward and discuss it. I do think it's interesting how people's opinion change when they sit on this side of the table opposed to when they sit on that side.
Well, like I said, I voted no
I'm just
to
saying.
4-year terms.
You also wanted us to change it back to 2 on a number of occasions, so I just, before you were
What?
elected. You wanted us to go back to 2-year term a number of, before you were elected into office. When Alderman Leahy brought it up. You wanted us to go back to Alderman Leahy.
I think this is a marvelous discussion, but if I may ask the board to move this
Yes.
attention
Yeah.
into the August meeting, I think it would be fun to have that discussion.
Well,
Public
regardless,
comment, if
I'll
anybody-
support reduced terms.
If anybody would like to address the board, please come forward and give us your name and address.
Karen Smith Harrison. I was wondering, that discussion we were having about commercial vehicles and trucks on public roads, but that are more residential. Do we have like I don't know what you call it, a map or a listing of what all of the different streets are labeled in Brentwood to find out like what our street is and to make sure that we're consistent across the board? I think it would be worth looking at that. I don't know where that would go with public safety or public works or ways and means, but it seems like it should be consistently applied like across the city. And then secondly, I think it would, the development where the old Manhasset Village used to be will probably go through, and other things to think about in regards to mitigating it on Brentwood residents is if they do travel on Eager Road, if you ask them to hose down that road periodically, once a week or whenever, when they're moving big trucks in and out and they bring in a lot of dirt, there's a lot of debris that falls off of them because we've, in my neighborhood, experienced quite a bit of construction, and so it helps if weekly you can have them hose down the road. It just keeps the dirt down. And secondly, some construction sites also use misters. I know a lot of times they do that when there's hazardous material that's being worked on. But if you use misters, that does stop the dust from getting up, because all those people that live around there are going to have a lot more dust on their cars and on the outside of their homes and their windows. And that does cut down quite a bit if they apply a mister while they're moving dirt around. Thank you.
Denise Sebbing, and you know where I live. I'm just wondering if somebody would offer to champion all of these things, items that I brought pictures in, because I really believe there are safety issues with stop signs being covered by branches and speed limits being covered and no parking signs, and the huge, I'm not exaggerating, the holes by the bus stop on Manchester is at least 2 feet to 3 feet on each side of the telephone pole right by the bus stop, and it's at least 18 inches deep on these holes. They're not just little, they're holes. If somebody would champion to get those resolved, I think there's safety issues, and I think it's potential liability if somebody gets hurt in Brentwood running through a stop sign, and those on White and St. Clair are right by the high school. So I think those are issues. And secondly, I do thank you, Maureen, asking about those signs, because I've been asking Justin and different people if they couldn't do something to spruce up that area a little bit, even if it's having the high school kids volunteer to paint construction boards, you know, put the scores or put the schedule for the football team or baseball team or whatever up there. Do something to make it a little bit more attractive, because right now it looks, it's horrible. It's old, it's dilapidated. I don't know how you can attract, you know, anybody that wants to put a lot of money into it the way it looks now. I think by sprucing it up, it'll make it a little bit more attractive to investors. Thank you.
Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
And second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries.